And that might seem like a really odd thing to say, but the reason that I feel really passionately about air quality is me and my mum were walking to get a cup of tea, and she lives in quite a rural area of Devon, really beautiful, and a diesel engine went by, and she had to stop and take deep breaths, and then she had to sit down, because like 12 million other people, my mum has problems with her lungs, and it struck me about how profound just one car going by had on her, to realise that we have a public health emergency, not just in some areas, but on nearly every single street in our country. And that's because the air we breathe isn't clean enough. And we do need to do things differently. Last year, Parliament declared a climate emergency. You might have heard of that. And for me, that was a really important line in the sand. It was a moment where Parliament said, there's a problem here, and we need to do things differently. And that was really important to me. I take it very seriously, because that means we do have to do things differently. And one of the things we have to do differently is the pace of change. Because for young people growing up in areas of poor air quality, for people like my mum, like many people, like Cheryl, who really suffer from problems with their lungs at the moment and with breathing, they can't wait for action somewhere far down in the distance. And that's why I'm really happy to support the Great Lung Foundation and other charities that are calling for WHO targets to be included in the Environment Bill. The debate that the Minister referred to on the Environment Bill was a good one, but there was a chorus of unity from Labour MPs and Conservative MPs, all directed at the Minister, saying include the WHO targets in the Environment Bill. Make sure that the targets are not far off in the future, make sure they're deliverable now, make sure there's bold and swift action. Banning the sale of petrol and diesel cars by 2035 is a thing. It is better than we had before. But I want to see that date brought forwards. And I want to see a date introduced for the end of the use of those vehicles. Because there's no point simply banning their sale unless we're banning the use of them. Because that diesel engine that is owned by someone that lives up the road from mum, that will drive past her every single day, will still be driving past her every single day, even if the model is no longer able to be sold. So we do need action on that. And I hope that during the process of the Environment Bill, the Minister will listen to the concerns and to include the WHO targets in the bill. Because it's really important we have those, and we need to make sure that those targets have a hard date on. Now, I was just speaking to someone from the London Assembly, from the Civic team, beforehand, and it says it's really interesting to compare what we're doing with carbon to compare what we're doing with air quality. With carbon, the government set a date, 2050, to achieve net zero. It's a good date. We're currently on 2099, so there's still some progress to go as to how we're going to get there. I'd like to see it brought forwards, but they've got a date, and they're working out how they get there. I want to see the same approach to air quality. Let's have bold, ambitious targets, let's have them up here, and then let's have an action plan and resource against it to achieve those. Because there's a public health emergency when it comes to this. Now, for my part, I've offered the Minister to mess about this, and due to the large amounts of water falling from the sky, we see each other fairly frequently in debates about flooding at the moment. That I think we should have a cross-party approach here. Because air quality shouldn't be party political. It shouldn't be. It's a public health emergency that affects all our communities. It's affecting young people in particular, and those people with chronic conditions. We should find a way of working together. But to do that, we need to have a way that takes the experience that we heard from Cheryl, the experience of young people, the experience of campaigners, to say we need bolder and swifter action. And we want to encourage the government to go bolder. We're in no shortage of government press releases about air quality. But I want to see our air made cleaner for everybody involved. And that's really important. Because if we don't, when that diesel car keeps going by, my mum's lungs aren't going to get better. And for lots of people with lung problems, they're only going to deteriorate further, which means it'll be harder for her to breathe every time that car goes by. And there's lots of people in my constituency in Plymouth and right across the country for whom the air they breathe is slowly killing them rather than sustaining them. And that's something that we need to make sure where we are moving away from. Now, one thing that hasn't been said so far is about the other measures that can be going on. Because it's not just about having big targets, banning diesel and petrol engines, although that is part of it. We need to look at indoor air quality as well, something the Environment Bill is silent on. Indoor air quality is really complicated and difficult to talk about. The interventions are actually quite hard to get there, but it's just as important as the air we breathe outside. So we need to make sure we're looking at that. We need to make sure we're encouraging the right interventions and community campaigns. We all want to plant lots of trees to sequester carbon, to make it better. But what type of tree are you planting in your community? Are you planting the 21st century version of the London plane tree? Some of you know the London plane tree. It was a big tree you see around the capital. It captured coal particulates, which were really big, and it stored them away to improve the air in London and our big industrialised cities. Well, what's the modern equivalent of a London plane tree? Because London plane trees are frankly pretty rubbish at capturing PM10s and PM2.5s. Silver birch is really good. So how in your local areas are you having tree planting strategies that not only encourage biodiversity, but also encourage the capture of particulates? That's especially true for trees near schools, GP surgeries, and alongside our roads. There's all things that we can do. Some of those might be quite small. The Minister has more power than any of us in the room to change things here. But don't think that that means she's the only person in this room with power. We all have power, we all have a voice, and we can all do something that would make a bit of a difference in relation to that. I think it is a really exciting policy area for us to work in. I think it is an exciting policy area for us to work together on a cross-party basis between all the political parties. But to do that, we need to hear your voice. Because parliamentarians respond to the pressure they get. How many people here have written to their MP about air quality? Put your hands up. That's really good. But that means half of you still need to write to your MP to go and do that. After Brexit and animal welfare, I want air quality to be the issue that MPs get most in their postbag. We can do that by working with organisations like this, with people like you, to keep it on the agenda, to keep the pressure on. So when it comes to the amendments that the Minister will be considering, that includes the WHO target, when it comes to that amendment, I want the Minister to know that it's not only people like me that are arguing for it, it's people like you that are arguing for it as well. And when we do that, we can achieve the change in the Environment Bill, we can achieve the change that we need in our communities, and we can all breathe cleaner, better air. Keep up the good work. Thank you for everything you're doing. Welcome to Parliament, especially to the young people. It was great speaking to Maxim earlier about his experience. Keep going, keep campaigning on this issue, because there are thousands, millions of people out there who need people like Cheryl to be the voice for them. So thank you for what you said, thank you for what you're doing, and keep campaigning. Thank you.